Coaching Aha's CEC special with Andrew, I asked a whole bunch of our fellow coaches if there is one question they've always wanted to ask you, but haven't yet. And we got a bunch of thoughtful questions. So are you ready? You're on the hot seat.
I'm ready. As long as it's not about how the International Coaching Federation works, this will be a good interview.
The most popular was ICF exam, and the second most popular was where is the toolkit, Andrew?
Exactly. Well, good. Well, then I think this podcast has come to an abrupt ending.
Okay, first question is from Alexis. She says, what is your coaching style and what are the experiences or influences that have helped shape it?
Yeah. So, my style tends to be, I'm a one on sociability. I don't like a lot of small talk. I tend to be bottom line. So my preferred style is as what I call a sparring partner or a thinking partner. I like to work with really smart people where we go back and forth, test ideas. Maybe I can play devil's advocate a little bit, say, what about this? What about that? At the same time, though, nonprofit organizations have somehow come my way, and you wouldn't expect it based on what you know about my style. And I think they do it though because I'm a straight talker. I like this thing called straight talk, open, honest conversation. And in a lot of organizations like nonprofits, healthcare, universities, where I've done a lot of work, people have trouble doing that. They'd rather they'd rather be popular or like, they don't want to offend. And so they can bring someone like me in who can do some group or team coaching to help identify the patterns and say, well, I think what you're saying is this, what you're saying is this.
Yeah.
So that's good. But, in general, my preferred client now is someone doing amazing things, smart, fast processor, and we could just get to it and really try to work through things.
Yeah. How do you leverage your coaching style, though, to challenge the client and get them out of their comfort zone?
Well, exactly like that. If I feel like we're going in circles, I say, I feel like we're going in circles. Right. Or I had one client, his company was being pecked to death by smaller competitors that moved more
Oh,
quickly. But he was operational. He said, I can't come up with a vision. But I know he went to Harvard Business School where they cold call you. So I said, listen, you're back at Harvard Business School, you're in class, you're the case study, and the professor cold calls you to say, what's the answer? And you have
right.
to answer. And so like that was an amazing thing for him. He literally went right back there and he tried to, talk his way through the vision and strategy, and it worked.
Right.
He
It
came up with
worked.
one.
Wow.
Yeah. But if I'm not saying, I think a trick for coaches or a skill that coaches have is to know when to raise edge, right?
Right.
At first we're patient, we listen, we see where they're going, but if there's no progress, we call that out and we say, what do we need to do to make sure you're going to move forward? And sometimes we have to say, how is this really an important goal for you?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. How would you compare your coaching style and approach to other successful coaches?
Uh, Good question. We have a lot of successful coaches that come out of the CEC. We have
True.
very successful faculty, and it's all over the map. For instance, we have this team coaching program that I teach with Diana Stoichevsko from Romania, and one of the participants said, "Diana is everything you are, everything you're not, in a good way." And what she meant by that was, Diana is very empathetic. Her questions are more patient, more grounded. There's more pause and silence. The energy is a little bit more relaxed. And
Mm.
so that's an awesome style as well. I think as long as a coach is present, is listening, has a good contract with the client so the client knows what to expect,
Yeah.
things can go well. The key is just to stay out of the client's way and really listen to the client's cues.
Yeah. I think the lesson in what you're saying and the beauty of it is that there are so many different kinds of coaches in the
Yeah.
sense of their styles are so different, but yet each of those styles can be equally effective for the right client. And so matching the client to the coach, right? And really for a client to figure out if this is the right coach for me is so important.
Yeah, I think that's right. Although, we can all adapt too. I mean, coaches
Yes,
tend to be
of
very
course.
adaptable. So, in that spirit of listening, we're going to do an assessment up front. The client will have some good language to say, here's my style. The coach can share their style. And
Yeah.
whether it's the similar style or different style, they can find ways to work together.
Yeah. This is a question from Shubhendru. So he's talking about your journey to build CEC into the amazing organization that it is today and a phenomenal community of coaches. Tell us a little bit about maybe what was the most surprising thing in building this organization and perhaps the hardest.
Um, the hardest, honestly, is the ICF and the accreditation. Like, I'm very bad at administration, and I don't like it. And so, everyone has to look at their style. Like, I like the Working Genius assessment, which shows a little bit, and I like the Profile XT, which shows the
Right.
occupational interest. Right, I'm lowest on that and highest in enterprising. And so for me, the hardest is the boring stuff. Um, and the repetitive stuff. I like variety. I like creating and things like that. But the thing with the Center for Executive Coaching is it just started with nothing more than a little book that we would mail to people and a weekly teleclass, not even Zoom,
Wow.
no video. It was just once a week with a very small group. You could join anytime, and you get a
Yeah.
little binder that I would print out at the local copy shop. And that's all it started as. There was no ICF. There was no nothing. We gave them a little certificate at the end, and it just sort of grew from there very organically over years and years. And that wasn't even the first business I tried. I had
Mm,
tried others, that didn't do as well. So for me, it was all about testing, seeing what works, listening to clients or customers, seeing what they liked, what they didn't, and just expanding based on that. It was a very organic process. It wasn't like something you'd see Elon Musk do or Bill Gates. I'm not that kind. It's just a very organic thing, doing something I
yeah.
really enjoyed doing and seeing where it would go.
What advice would you have for someone who's trying to build their community at this point of time?
Well, well, I'll tell you what, the advice I would give is from my Jack Russell Terrier. If you've seen Jack Russell Terriers, right, what they do, let's say they're outside in the
Yeah.
backyard and there's a fence and they want to get out. They're going to just look for holes. They're going to dig. They're just going to keep going with all the energy they have. And some things won't work. They'll hit a post,
Yeah.
a metal post, and then maybe they'll dig and they'll get a rock. They just keep going. And I think that's it. Like, you have to know why you want it. And if you
Yeah.
know why you want it, you're gonna hit roadblocks and it's gonna be hard, but just keep going. Eventually something opens up and then another space opens and another
Yeah.
space opens. So I think that's the advice. Like, kind of don't take it personally. Think of yourself as a scientist and keep testing and seeing what works. Or a Jack Russell Terrier.
Love it. This is a question from Teju. What is your dream for the future of this community?
Just, success, however everybody defines it. The trick with a coach and the coaches in our program is we all have different goals.
Mm,
Some want to build a firm, some just want to do this a day a week, some want to work in a company, some want to write books, some want to speak, some want to have a global presence, some don't. And so, it's really my dream is that everyone figures out what they want and they make it happen.
mm. One of the sort of subparts of a question is that would you consider or what do you think of partnering with CC members on perhaps larger client engagements that you might have for scale? Because often I think, individually, especially with large Fortune 500s, etc., we are at a disadvantage because we don't have scale, right? We are an individual coach sometimes.
Right.
And is that something that you have thought of? Is that something that, piques your interest at all or not so much?
Well, I don't work with Fortune 500 companies generally. I don't like to. I'm not going to work with the CEO because why would they pick me when they have people on the board from McKinsey and they're going to get a McKinsey partner and stuff? It's impossible to get through. I like creative, growing companies or
Right.
professionals who are doing amazing things. And those are typically just one-on-one work and then a little bit of teamwork.
Yeah.
But our company that owns us now, Keystone, they often look for coaches. And so things like that, I think, are more possible within the Keystone environment. Also, I see in our LinkedIn group that coaches sometimes say, "Hey, I have a need for a coach." I just had someone
Yes.
who reached out to me, the other day. He has a client he really can't help, but sees opportunities. So I'm more of again, a lone eagle. I tend to work alone now. I'm very picky about the clients I work with,
Yeah.
and so it's unlikely that I would bring anybody in, but
Right.
the CEC community often asks for coaches, and I think
Right.
Keystone sometimes looks for coaches too.
Great answer. So,
Right.
next question is from Frank. Where do you think the coaching industry will be in 5 years? And what do you think is fueling the demand?
Yeah, I took a test once from Harvard Business School about my ability to have vision and to see things like that. And I scored the lowest of anybody who took the test, like 0 percentile, if that's possible. So, and one of the, I think the philosophy of the CEC is don't worry about the overall bell curve, right?
Yeah,
Coaching is a $10 billion industry, 10 billion. You are never going to absorb more than a drop of that. So instead of worrying about the industry, right, the research shows it's growing at 5 to 10% a year. I think what's important is to say, where do you want to play? What's your
right,
goal? And go make it happen. Make yourself on the right side of the bell curve instead of the left side for success. And there's plenty of room to
right.
do that. So that's how I'm much more of a microeconomics than a macroeconomics
Yeah,
thinker when it comes to business, right? Just what's your dream and how can you make it happen? What kind of clients do you want to serve? How can
yeah,
you be the best at serving them? That I think is more helpful. I get worried when people say, what's the industry going to be? As if just because the industry is doing well, you're going to do well. You might do terribly. And in small industries or low growth, you might do great. So think about yourself and how to propel yourself versus worrying about this giant macro thing that's out of our control. That's
yeah.
my advice anyway.
Great advice. Next question is from Grab. What do you think clients are looking for in an executive coach today? And do you think it's changed over the years?
What are they looking for an executive coach? They're look well, see, I don't think of it that way. I don't think they're looking for an executive coach. I think they're
Right,
looking for people who solve problems. Right. So that question is kind of a trap, in my opinion. It's really what are leaders looking for? What are their biggest concerns and problems?
right,
And how can we help? I don't talk about coaching. I'm looking, I'll give a talk about a problem. How do we, why it's hard to engage and motivate people in a remote world. Right.
right,
And then someone comes up to me and says, yeah, I have that problem too. I haven't even mentioned coaching. Right. And then we
right.
talk about it. We see if it's a big enough problem and, say, how would you like to work with me? Or how could we work together? And they'll say, I don't know, you're the expert. And I'll say, well, one way is we meet weekly for a little bit and then every other week, and I'm a sounding board and I help you, look at the issues you're having and improve them. That's it. I don't even use the word coaching. And
Yeah.
and so what was that in that case? What's that person looking for? He loves technology, but he hates dealing with people. And so he's
Mm.
looking for help, for peace,
Yeah.
for fulfillment in that area and comfort and confidence. And so that's where we come in.
How do you help a client really understand the size of their problem? Because often I think clients tend to look at like parts of it, not necessarily the problem as a whole. And
Yeah,
often, so somebody going into a new role may just think they can, wing it, right? Or they can manage it. But
right.
you know that that's not the case. I mean, there's a significant agenda they may have to drive, whatever it may be. You know that coaching can help. And so, how do you help the client understand, right, what the dimensions of their problem are?
Well, I mean, that's a whole course on consultative selling. Honestly, that's what the best people do who sell professional
Yeah.
services is they have this list of questions, right? I'm going to coach them on,
Yeah.
what if you do nothing? What if this goes well? What if it doesn't go well? What are you
Yeah.
most worried about? How's your stress level now? What's the impact of this problem on you today? What's the impact on your team, your organization? I ask tons of questions like that. And if I hear what you're saying, they don't think it's a big deal. They think they can wing it. I'll say, okay, I get it. Good luck. Reach out if
Yeah.
something, if it doesn't go well. So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to sell anybody. If you try to sell
Right.
in today's environment, people will resist.
People will
People,
resist.
yeah, they want to buy. So let's just ask questions. It's either there or it's not. And if they're too blind to see it, or they're not willing to share it because they don't want to be vulnerable, then you know what? We're probably not going to work with each other. I will say,
Right.
some people in this program, probably many, are going to be better than me at building rapport with that type of person, having them comfortable opening up. And so, like, I'm not pitching anything. I'm just asking questions to see if there's something big enough there where an outsider might come in. Same as going to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor. If you think you can wing your way out of, you're cold, good. You don't go to the doctor. But if it's getting really
Right.
bad, you can't get out of bed, you better go to the doctor.
Yeah. Great analogy and great answer. The next one is from Marielle. She says, have you ever had a coach? And what is it about their coaching style that you appreciate the most?
I've had a ton of coaches in lots of different areas: eating, fitness, tennis, and just general leadership, and just general being a person. The For me, the best coaches bring something to the table, right? And this is why, in this program, I say that the ICF approach to coaching, which is very non-directive, is okay, but
Right.
it's really a style. The best coaches I've had are able to present distinctions or new ways of thinking that I hadn't
Right.
considered and I really value. So for instance, early on, I had a coach, and I was very cynical, very negative kind of person, and the coach really helped me see other ways of perceiving things. So, that would be, one example. Or, in tennis, for instance, where this will apply to coaching, but in tennis, I have an instructor who's so technical, like he's a genius. He can see, just adjust a little bit this way,
Right.
right? And I think as a leadership coach, same thing. Try this when you're speaking. Try this with your body language. Try this next time you meet. A little bit of advice, and we don't teach this in the Center for Executive Coaching because I want to be careful with that thing called the advice trap that Michael
Right.
Stanier talks about in his book. But
Mm.
in real life, the best coaches I've had, I've said, oh, I hadn't really thought about that, and it's been really helpful to me.
Yeah. That's such a great answer. The last one is from Angela, and her question is, knowing what you know now, what
Right.
advice would you give your younger self when you were just setting up your business?
No, I think just be patient. It's going to work out. I think that would be it. I mean, I think really the advice I needed was way before. Like ever since I was like 15, I've been obsessed with I got to start a business. I got to start a business. I mean, I remember paying a company for this to help me design this mini washer machine idea I had when I was like 18. I remember taking my dad to the bad part of town where we lived and saying, let's buy some of these houses. And thank God the real estate broker said, you don't want to buy these houses and stuff like that. So I've always wanted to start something. And so I think it would have been helpful back then to have someone give me advice then. Like, it's all going to work out, relax, take it easy, but also be more positive. I
Mm,
think that the biggest thing I had to overcome to be able to start a business at all was going from cynical, negative, yeah, I can do this. It's possible. It's going to take a lot of work. Uh, that, and then I think the other thing was you're ready. I would have liked to have heard, yeah, you're ready. Because
mm,
when I started this, I had under my belt some really good training and development experience, some at least 1 year of very, very good marketing experience, as I
mm,
shared earlier, and some good consulting experience. And I'd already shifted into coaching. And so
mm,
with all of that, I was ready, but does anyone really know when the time is, especially if it had probably been about 12 years of just obsessing about starting
mm.
something. And I had a lot of failures too. I started a mixed martial arts fighting league, believe it or not, where I lost $250,000. But
Wow.
it was good. I mean, it was fun. We put on some fun events. We made some money, lost some money. I just was going to go broke if I did that. I've started lots of things. And so, this was the one I guess that would be the other thing is do it because you like it. Don't do it because you
Yeah.
think there's money. Do it because even if you fail, you will haven't enjoyed it. It would have been worth the time.
Why was starting a business such a burning desire for you at that young age?
Well, my dad was a physician, so he had a business. It was, uh, and I was just always like, how do you make money? Like, how do I go from this nice life that I have to me doing a nice life for others? I didn't really understand it. And at the same time, I grew up at a time when Wall Street was going crazy. It was like the 80s. And, like in my neighborhood, like across from me was like, I think the brother-in-law of the guy who started Reebok, right? And that guy was just a salesman. He was nobody. And then suddenly he buys Reebok. He's making $11 million a year. And then another guy starts a savings and loan. This was before they all failed. Like I look at him saying, this seems really easy. I got to get into this. But I was also very concerned. Like, how am I going to support someone the way my dad did? Was a very, very, like, it was just a burning question because I didn't really feel like I knew anything, and I didn't get it. So it was that. And then my grandmother, I remember meeting my grandmother one day, and she was awesome. She's like old school grandmother, like really, she wouldn't like HR. She would never work in a company with HR the way HR is today, the way she talked. But she says the one thing I told my boys was always start your own business. You got to be self-employed. And she would keep hammering that home. And I saw, I know the other thing that it was. My dad and one other guy I knew. they'd go to the Y for lunch every day. And this one guy would play tennis throughout the day. And as I thought about my dream life, and they owned, they were entrepreneurs, I said, this is what I want. All I want is to have the freedom to go to the Y for lunch and work out, and just have my time be my own. That seemed really
Yeah.
kind of cool. So I guess it was a confluence of things, but I knew it early on. I just was quite naive about what a business is, how much work it takes to get one, how much, before you start a business, you really should have some savings. You should be stable. It's something maybe you start on the side. You don't want to invest a lot of money. Coaching's great for all of these things. So
Yeah.
it was a lot. I mean, it really, we could, I probably need a therapist to delve into all of the mechanisms that were causing me to think this way. But those were just some of them.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing that and for sharing all of your wisdom and stories with us today. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's so cool that we got to do this together.
Yeah, I'm glad we could. Thank you. I know we were going to do it and the hurricane hit, and here we can reschedule. So thanks. I really appreciate the energy you have. It comes through. I hope everyone watching can see it. This is how you should look on video. Like you're psyched, you're happy, you're passionate. It's nice to see.
Aw, thank you.